welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host, and this is the Narcissist's Bag of Tricks, and we are discussing more on mirroring. Mirroring. We've covered mirroring before, but I'm going to take it to a different level this time. So, for those of you just now joining, what exactly is mirroring? Mirroring is something that usually in real-life situations occurs unconsciously. It's not something you really think about, it just happens. Such as I invite you over to have some coffee, and you sit down across from me at a table, and you cross your leg over the other, and you grab your mug of coffee and you hold it this way and drink it slowly. Well, I may, without thinking, cross my other leg over and grab my own cup and hold it the same way, which is an example of regular mirroring, not the fake kind. However, with the narcissistic or the psychopathic or sociopathic or otherwise cluster B monster, it's a much different ball game. When two strangers meet, it's very rare that the two of them would have like every single thing in common. Now, it does happen, it can happen. However, when you meet one of these cluster B monsters, they make sure that it does happen. The problem is it's phony. When you meet one of these types of creatures, if things move way too fast, that is a red flag. But what will happen many times is this total stranger will seem to be interested in every little single thing that you are interested in, which seems great and flattering, and wow, out of all the millions of people in this world, I happen to find the one who feels the same way. And although it's possible, it's rare, especially with these types where they overdo it. I mean, it might be realistic if they share passionately something you also do, but like one thing, but then 20 other things they don't. But these monsters will act as if they just love every single thing that you love. But normal mirroring, of course, occurs in regular couples, usually over a slow period where over time you mirror each other's certain things that are similar. But with the cluster B monster, it just seems too good to be true. Everything's too fast. It's after a date or two, they're like interested in every single thing you are, and for some of us, we can sense that and think, this isn't real, because instant bonding is rarely a symptom of a deep, emotionally attached relationship. Keep in mind, it is very tempting to want to believe that this person you just happen to accidentally run into and meet just also happens to share all these things that you share. With this type of monster, it's a simulated type of bonding, where they basically latch on to anything and everything they can see that you like and act like they love it way too fast usually. And as they say, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. The problem is with these monsters, though, this fakery occurs way before any real type of emotional bonding could occur. Instant bonding is usually a symptom of shallow emotions rather than a miraculous compatibility after a date or two. If you find yourself in such a situation that is meant to look like, oh my goodness, this just happened to happen and it just happens to be perfect, beware, because when it's that easy, chances are that's a preview of what will be happening with the next target once you've been cast off to the side. Because regular bonds in relationships normally form slowly over time with various interactions and trouble here and no trouble there, but not instantly. Oh, every time I talk to you, it's the most wonderful thing ever. Oh, I want to see you again every day. That is all phony and is also indicative of what's going to happen later. with the next target, and probably already is happening with other targets that you're not aware of. Another thing to keep in mind when discussing mirroring and in the idealization phase, a phrase you could keep in your mind, which is easy come, easy go, which is further illustrated usually after you've carried on in this interaction for quite a while. Eventually what happens is, let's say you're a person who values the truth, and that was mirrored back to you by this creature who says, oh, I'm just like that too, I like the truth as well. But as time passes, lie after lie after lie surfaces, and then retarded mind games go on, promises that aren't kept, power struggle type games, all this starts to happen, and eventually you get to the point where you think, you know what, this too good to be true person actually is exactly that. You'll become devalued by this creature. What I found interesting is that things that it loved about you at the beginning all of a sudden are switched around and reversed, and now all of a sudden these are faults in this creature's eyes. I experienced something like this when I had met a love bomber, was considering letting it move in way back over a decade ago. At the same time, though, I was trying to be realistic and almost like trying to talk the other person out of it, because the other person was like, oh, I'd love to move in with you. Oh, I'd love to. And I would think, but wait a second, are you sure? And I would say things such as, well, I'm a music person, and I sometimes go into a music studio of my own, and I may be in there for hours, but you don't want to live in the same place with somebody doing that. Which is, again, me trying to be empathetic and trying to pull some reason in here when you've got this stranger who's immediately willing to give up everything to be in your home, in your household, and you're like saying, well, wait a second, and the response I would get would be, oh, that's okay. If you want to spend hours in that music studio, well, I'll just watch television. That's fine. So any objection I could give to say, like, are you sure you want this, because it would be met with, oh, no, that's perfectly fine, which, again, is not realistic. It's a symptom or a red flag that you're dealing with a monster. And, of course, fast forward 11 years later, when things were over, I heard things like, all you do is spend hours in that music studio, doing this and doing that. And of course I rushed to say, oh really? Do you not recall when we first discussed this? I had told you that I would be spending hours in that studio, and now it's a problem? But even that type of logical argument doesn't work with them. They'll just say nothing or change the subject. But there's one other piece of this that I found interesting that I just recently discovered as far as the mirroring goes. It's kind of related to what we just discussed. People aren't always 1,000% compatible. And let's say there's something about yourself that's not too pleasing. Now, to compare with the narcissist, narcopath monster, they're just going to present positive aspects of themselves to you. But if you're like a real person, like I was, I'm like, you're acting way too fast. And I was thinking of what kind of stuff could I say to shake it back to reality, to think, look, just because after 1 or 2 meetings you think everything's great, well, how do you like this? And I would like say something that wasn't too flattering. Well, if you're being honest, and let's say you have some kind of quirk and you share that, you would think like a regular person would say, oh, and then maybe back off a little, but these don't. They're like, oh, that's perfectly fine. And it's eerie. But the other thing is, they're very consistent when they're playing their love bomb game. So what I've noticed, or what can happen is, let's say you do have some let's say you have an embarrassing devil-shaped mole on your rib, and you're ashamed of it, and you try to cover it and hide it. Well, of course, this person will be like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. Oh, I love that. Well, what they're doing here is It doesn't matter if it's beautiful or not. If it really bothers you and it's like a sore spot, this person's projecting the image to you that basically, oh, I like you exactly as you are. So if you were hiding that little thing and then it accidentally showed, you'd be humiliated normally thinking someone's going to see it and say, oh, what's that? But instead it's, oh, that's beautiful. So that melts away a lot of your normal discriminatory abilities where you think this person's too good to be true, because they know what to do. This is their game. This is their mastery. But those types of things can happen if you have little insecurities, yet they completely trivialize them and make them just like, oh, that's something good. Well, it's easy to think, well, wow, that was a problem with the last two, and this one doesn't seem, oh, maybe I should pursue this, but it's all part of the game. So beware. And I know it's a very tough situation if someone's showering you with all this attention and acting just like you. It's kind of hard for you to challenge them because you'll be labeled as paranoid. You'll be labeled as foolish. You'll be told, why can't you just accept the fact I like you after 24 hours? Why can't you? And keep it in mind and wouldn't say any of this to them because that just gets them to steer you away and say, oh, that's wrong. You saw that in some video. Oh, well, that's wrong too. It's not wrong. Be careful of things that move too fast.
Now, don't I know I've already told you before a few times why exactly I targeted you? Well, I figured I'd take it just a little step further today and let you know that I could tell when I met you that you had those qualities I don't, such as sensitivity, emotions, feelings, empathy, whatever that crap is. All I know is it interferes in getting what you want. Well,
Oh, believe me, I've read the literature on what you normals call, what you think I am, the narcopath, or whatever name you want to call. You all say I lack empathy, I have little emotion. Well, honey, I beg to differ. From what I've seen, all of you normals, with your empathy, remorse, and guilt, you all are handicapped. See, I don't have those problems. If I want something, I get it. I don't care if I'm hurting someone. Like you. I knew if you knew what I was really like, you would not give me a second look, but did I let that stop me? No, because I get what I want, and I wanted you. Well, actually, I wanted the security of having you daily and the money that you didn't realize I saw hidden in your basement. I figured if I could get you to trust me by ignoring it for several weeks, then the one day that I stole it, which was strategically planned around the time you had the guy come fix your oven that I screwed up behind your back, just to get somebody else in there, well, that's when the money disappeared. So it wasn't me. You see? People like you could never do that kind of thing, but you see, for me, it's second nature. I needed your money. It was there. I did what I needed to do, and I got it. Get over it.